Marathon is now a PvP extraction shooter. Last week, Bungie announced their revival of the decades-old Marathon franchise, and while many folks were excited to see what was on display, fans of the original series were not and had a lot of grievances regarding the changes made to their beloved 90s games. Oh, what's up you guys? I'm not amazing, I'm just mediocre, and we're going to be talking about the issues these OG fans have with the new iteration of the Marathon series, and whether or not they actually have valid concerns. Some critics point to the bold new art style with its loud, garish color scheme and say it's a far cry from the original, which primarily featured the dimly lit industrial corridors of the Marathon colony ship as it came under attack by alien forces. They further argue that none of the characters or weapons featured in the trailer resembled anything in the original games, and why call it Marathon if it's not actually going to resemble the original Marathon? However, in my opinion, this is the least valid criticism of the game for a few reasons. First off, there was only so much that Bungie could do back in the 90s with the pixelated art style that was available to actually execute the vision that they originally had for Marathon. So there's going to be an obvious evolution of those original concepts based on 30 years of development in the video game industry. Second, there are at least a few direct homages to the original games that you can see within the trailers. You've got these alien enemy types here known as spit compilers, which are just a spitting image of their original character art. Then we have this concept art here, which looks very reminiscent of the original player character design, and in my opinion, the runner we see get shot in the teaser looks like it as well. And we also, if you look closely here, we can see what looks like a Marathon automated defense drone, which looks to be much like the Spit compiler, a near direct port of its original design. I'd also like to remind everyone that these settings and characters that are being criticized as different from the originals were never actually featured in the originals. The first Marathon does see you defending the colony ship, however the subsequent games see you whisked off to alien planets to do the bidding of rogue artificial intelligences, so we never actually saw the Tau City colony itself. In addition, those bright white garish characters that are seen in the trailer are actually dressed this way because they all work for the same corporation, Traxxas, one of the factions of this new Marathon game. If we look at any of the concept art or characters that look like the original player art, they're all branded with the UESC, the United Earth Space Council, which was the faction you were technically playing as in the first game, and also present here in this Marathon. So where Bungie has made new, let them go wild, but rest assured that where there are classic designs, they do appear to be attempting to hold true to them while updating them with some modern aesthetic. However, some would say that the argument around art style is just a red herring, and the true issue at hand is the fact that Bungie has taken a beloved single-player game with a rich, deep story and turned it into a PvP extraction shooter that's gonna come along with all the negative baggage of live service gaming. Fans of those original campaigns were hoping for something more along the lines of the Doom reboots. Those games were praised for remaining faithful to the originals, both in style and gameplay, while also evolving the series to give the new games their own distinct identities. The Doom reboots also took the threadbare story of the originals and turned it into an epic saga of angels versus demons and the gods that created them, with humanity stuck in between. However, where those original Doom games had the thinnest of plots, the 90s Marathon Trilogy actually wove a deep and complex, thought-provoking narrative. The story asks questions about what it means to be a sentient being, about how the adoption of technology can transform a species and elevate it beyond recognition, and what happens when our technology evolves to a point where we can no longer control it. The final game of the original trilogy even ends in the most conclusive way possible, with the player character and one of the artificial intelligences having evolved into godlike beings and observing the end of the universe. One could argue that the final game featured a lot of dimension hopping and alternate timelines, and so you could simply reboot the Marathon game from an alternate timeline based on the in-game lore. But I could also understand why Bungie wouldn't want to go back and rewrite a story they've already completed, and instead want to go into telling a new story in a new type of way. You might ask then, why set it in the Marathon universe? Well, simply because there's still interesting stories to be told here, with the rest of humanity who was not involved with the events of those original games. While a distress signal was said to have been sent back to Earth in the original Marathon game, it was also said to take 90 years to get there, and with this new Marathon taking about 5 to 6 decades after the events of the original, they still haven't actually received that message, and so don't really know anything about the aliens they're about to encounter. In addition, all the glitchy imagery in the teaser trailer alongside this image of a pixelated body and face leads me to believe we're going to be dealing with some deranged AI just like the original Marathon Trilogy. The complaint here that I do understand though is that we can't just sit down and consume a story experience at our own pace, and that we're going to have to rely on whatever pace Bungie decides to release their new story content. Critics point to other live service games with stories like Apex Legends or Bungie's own Destiny, and the fact that it's drip-fed and spaced out over seasons and eons. And I completely sympathize with this issue myself. As an Apex lore YouTuber, I'm frustrated with the lack of narrative development in that game. On the other hand though, the way the devs have talked up the story delivery has given me a little bit of hope, and rationally I have to say that if Bungie just wanted to make something like Destiny, they would just make more Destiny, and the fact that they've made a separate game that is going to be unique from Destiny makes me believe we're going to get something a little bit different from what we've gotten used to. This ties directly into one of the other major criticisms of the game, the idea that it will feature looter shooter mechanics just like Destiny's. However, I'm not quite sure where people got that idea, because Marathon is billed as an extraction shooter, not a looter shooter. The huge difference here being RPG mechanics. In a looter shooter like Destiny or Borderlands, you are generally leveling up your character alongside picking up weapons of increasing power to fight enemies of increasing power. However, in an extraction shooter, you are not leveling up per se, you are finding better equipment for yourself, which is a bit different. Think of it like Apex Legends, where having a decent weapon with better attachments can help you win a firefight, but you don't just get to one-shot somebody because you found a level 500 Peacekeeper. You're still going to have to be skilled in the mechanics of the game in order to succeed. Live service games do also bring fears of microtransactions, which Bungie's Destiny is definitely guilty of. Tons of paid expansion packs that are required if you want to see the story continue, alongside the choice to spend real money on in-game equipment. Now, we honestly have no idea how this story is going to evolve and whether that delivery might include the potential purchase of future story expansions, but my fingers are crossed that's not on the table. However, I highly doubt that we're going to be able to spend money on in-game equipment, because Bungie have spouted a lot about the integrity of this experience, and if people can just buy the best equipment in the game straight out of the gate, that would completely undermine the competitive integrity of the game that they say they're actually trying to maintain. Besides that, the entire point of the game is to go in and get loot. It's an extraction shooter. You're supposed to go in and grab the equipment and get out. That's the exciting part. It would defeat the entire purpose of the game's existence if you could purchase the best gear with real money. We also, of course, have critiques of the extraction shooter genre itself. The entire environment can be unwelcoming to new players who simply haven't had the time to acquire the best gear. And if a casual player's only experience with the genre is something like Escape from Tarkov, they might be turned off from this entirely. However, Bungie has said they're well aware of the pitfalls of the extraction shooter and are working on making changes to this formula in order to make it a more accessible experience for a wider audience. And if you allow me to speculate here, there's some very cool changes they could make to this formula based on the in-game lore. We know you'll be working with these different mega corporations, so I can imagine you would be able to actually requisition pieces of starter equipment from them, and the quality of this equipment could improve as you improve the quality of your working relationship with each different corporation. That way, even if you get taken down while performing a mission planetside, you'll still be able to get back into the game with a decent set of equipment. The devs have also stated that extracting is not the only way you can feel like you've gotten a win in this game, and I imagine that's tied to the kind of contracts you might be able to execute. You could be downloading data, uploading a virus, or repairing equipment, and just completing that mission might earn you some rewards from that company outside of the successful extraction. You'll also be playing as a runner who's equipped with the technology to jump their consciousness from one clone body to the next, and that's how you're allowed to maintain a persistent character in between each death. Some of the upgrades you find are likely going to enhance the quality of this base model of body that you deploy into the environment with every game. Imagine things like the capacity of your oxygen tank or how much weight you can carry. You're probably only going to be able to equip a certain number of these upgrades at a time, so you're going to have to pick and choose which benefit your playstyle best. Once again, this is all speculation, just a bunch of ideas based on in-game lore about how they could make the extraction shooter a bit more accessible to the casual player. Now, after everything's said and done, I do think these OG fans have some valid concerns. They were hoping for a single-player experience, and the success of the Doom reboots shows that there is an audience for such a title. And fatigue over the live service model has set into the gaming community at large. However, Bungie's stated commitment to competitive integrity gives me hope that we won't be plagued with microtransactions and imbalanced gameplay. And as I said before, I believe that if Bungie just wanted to make another Destiny, they would make Destiny 3, but no, they set out to make Marathon, which is something new and different that they haven't done before. And if you want to see why I'm so convinced that Bungie can pull off this player-driven narrative that they intend to deliver, go ahead and click the video you see on your screen right now. I hope to see you there. In the meantime, I'm not amazing, I'm just mediocre, and I'm out.